Good evening, everyone. In this video, we'll be talking about nested states. Okay, what they are. Let us try to see them. So we can structure states more deeply than just replacing a state with a submachine. Okay, how you replace a state with a submachine we have already seen. We can actually nest states to actually show their commonality and thus share their behavior. Okay, so let's try to see them with an example. Okay. So if you still remember, we actually had seen the state diagram of phone line. Okay, there we had each and every state was there. Say for example this idle state. Okay, when the phone was in the idle state, then we had this dial tone. Okay, so when you lift off the hook, okay, the phone will be in the dial state. Okay, and when we have checked the state diagram at that time, we have not seen these activities. Okay, so as an extra example, you can actually see what is happening in each and every state with these sort of activities. Say for example, in the dial tone state, it is actually having a do activity which is actually sounding the dial tone. Okay, so similarly, from that one, if you start pressing digits, okay, so you will be in the dialing state. Okay, so we already have discussed this in detail last time. Okay, so as you basically enter all the digits, it's okay. Okay, if it is a valid number, it will be moving towards this connecting state. Then again, you have a do activity, so find connection. Okay, and then if it is invalid, then you have to basically record a message. Okay, so basically do play message and all things. Okay, and if it is say for example dialing, if it is warning, do play message. Say for example, if the timeout happens, okay, that's the event that is happening. Timeout. Eventually, the timeout will basically lead it back to this sort of timeout state. Okay, warning and timeout state. Okay, and then once you are in the connecting state, you will be ringing. Okay, so the other guy basically the do activity is ring the bell. The call phone answers, they're connected. Okay, so the call phone hangs up. So then again, we are disconnected. If you really remember that state diagram at that time we have discussed, if in any state, in any of these states, if we are putting on hook, so the phone hook we are replacing, then it was actually directly going towards this ideal state. So we literally had a transition from everything, so every other state towards this ideal state, okay, with this on hook. So we had these lines going out from all the states, and then with on hook event, they were basically going to ideal. Okay, so that's what we are actually trying to do, avoid with this sort of nested states. Now what we are doing is now we have this sort of another state called which is active state. Okay, so which actually with contour basically covering all these are called nested states. Okay, so for that active state, they all are within this one. Now basically what you can do is you can put a single transition on hook. Okay, so which will have this sort of activity of disconnect line. Okay, and then the phone line will move towards this idle state. Okay, see how many transitions you were earlier drawing with a single state diagram. Now with this sort of nested states, you have completely replaced them. Okay, that's what I was discussing here in this previous slides. Okay, so hope now the example is actually clear. Okay, so we can actually nest states to show their commonality and share behavior. So for example, all these states are in active state. Okay, so that is the only one which is in idle state. So going the same example, just describing them again. Okay, so a single state transition from active state to idle state replaces the transition from each state to the idle. Okay, that I have already explained. All original states except idle are nested states of active. Okay, so that's what I have explained. So basically, the active state, so all other things are nested states of active. The occurrence of event on hook in any nested state causes a transition to state idle. That also I have explained. Okay, so basically if an on hook transition means from any state, if this on hook event is happening, so it will move towards this idle state. That's about nested states. Okay, so basically all the states within this contour, okay, so they within this more or less state diagram. Okay, I mean within this active state, they are all these sort of nested states for active. The active state there in the earlier example is called the composite state. So the composite state name labels the outer contour that entirely encloses the nested states. Okay. So in the earlier example, active is the composite state for the nested states dialtone and the timeout and all the other states in that particular technique. Okay. Interestingly, okay, so what we have seen is like we have this composite state and all the nested states within. We can have these nested states to arbitrary depth. So you can have, say, for example, one composite state having several nested states. Within each nested state, like you can have sub-nested states. Okay, and you can go as deep as logic with this sort of nested states are concerned. Okay. So now let us look at another example, okay, so which is a little bit smaller and then like we can explain the things much better, okay, so and it has additional features as well. So here is an automobile automatic transmission. So the car transmission, you can actually model the state diagram something like this. You are actually starting, originally it will be in neutral state, okay. If you push this reverse button, okay, so the reverse gear, like if you put it, so it is automatic transmission, okay. So basically like you are in the reverse state. And then like from the reverse state, if you push the neutral, okay, so you basically will go towards this sort of neutral state, okay, again to the neutral state. So these are regular ones. But the interesting thing is, okay, so you also have this sort of forward composite state, okay, and there are several nested states within this one. So the moment like if the car has to go forward by pushing an F, okay, so it can be in this sort of first gear or second gear or third gear. Okay, so the transitions across these things will also happen. Okay, so first case if it is upshift, like it will go to the second gear, then further like it will go to the third gear. If you downshift, like then it will come to the second gear and eventually to the first gear. The interesting thing here is, okay, so this is like composite state and these are nested states. A nested state receives the outgoing transitions of its composite state. So the composite state is this push N. Okay, say for example, when you are in the forward state, if you push N, it will go basically go to the neutral state. Okay, selecting N in any forward gear basically shifts the transition to the neutral. Okay, so this is the transition happening. But the interesting thing is, so you have this transition towards this sort of this composite state, isn't it? So the forward. So since it is a composite state, it is actually going. So any state, okay, you are in any forward state, first, second or third, will actually take you to the neutral. Okay. In fact, actually transition from forward to the neutral actually implies like 3 transitions. One from each forward gear to the neutral. So you don't have to put all the things. The same way like earlier example also we have seen like on hook, like we don't have to put from every state, okay, in that particular phone line. So you only have one outline, okay, one outgoing transition. Okay, so that automatically implies like from any state like you can actually move towards neutral if you push neutral. Okay, so that's about this composite state. We have seen with 2 examples, so that should be clear. Okay, so a transition from a composite state means like actually it is an outgoing transition actually. So basically like it indirectly means like it is a transition from anywhere. Okay, moving further. Selecting a forward F in neutral actually causes a transition to forward. Okay, so that is clear, which we have seen. So pushing an F from neutral will go to the forward state. But which of the forward states it will? So which of the nested states will start? So that's where, like say for example, within this composite state, you have this sort of start here. So basically, like a push F into this composite state will always take you to the first gear first. So from neutral, like if you push F, so it will always go to the first gear. Then of course, like again, like the transition we have discussed, like we can go to second and third with upshift and downshift, like it will come down. Okay. So basically, like the first is the default initial state. Okay, so that's the diagram actually showing. Conceptually, what you can think is like forward is just an abstract state. Okay. So if you are putting an F, you are moving to the forward composite state, but then like it's just an abstract state. With forward, you don't mean anything. Control should always be in a real state. So that's how like we want to push the control to the first state. Okay, first state. So Forward, even though it is a composite state, it has no meaning. So it is an abstract way of saying it. Okay. So push F. So eventually it has to go towards an exact state. In this case, like it has to go to this first state. All the nested states share the transition on even stop from forward contour to first state first. See this one. The point is, so the forward, you have a transition from the contour to the first state. So that means like from any of these states, okay, say for example, you are in the second gear or third gear, if a stop is pressed, you will actually go towards this first state. So basically the point, that's why how like you will basically represent. So from the contour, like if a stop event is basically taking you to first, that means like from any other state within this sort of these nested states, so it will take you to the first state. Okay, so that's also another representation, okay, which we need to know. Then transition into, we already have seen like when we are going into a state, okay, so we have this sort of entry and exit activities are there. So when you basically go into a state, like you have that entry activities will be happening, okay, will be executed. Then like when you are moving out, like there will be exit activities, which we have discussed already. Transitioning into or out of a nested state can actually cause execution of several entry or exit activities. Okay, if say for example your depth is going further, okay, say for example if the transition reaches across several levels of nesting, the way like we have already discussed, it can go to any arbitrary level. So nested states within nested states within nested states. Okay. So that means like if a transition, okay, into or out of a nested state actually mean like there are several entry and exit activities are being executed. So the actually the entry activities are executed from the outside in. So the moment like say for example the upper level, the composite state, there are nested states. So if there is an in into one of the nested states, so for example like there are further nested states. So entry of this first level, okay, so entry activities of the first level will be executed, then the entry of the activities of the second level will be executed, then the third level will be executed, entry activities, and eventually when you are coming back, okay, so the exit activities of this lowest level will be executed, then the upper level, then the upper level, okay, and eventually you go out of that particular state. So that's how like transitioning in and out mean like there are several entry and exit activities are being executed. Okay, so this behavior is similar to nested subroutine also, okay, in terms of programming is concerned. So regarding the reference is concerned, we are in chapter 6, okay, so of object-oriented modeling and design with UML, okay. Thank you very much for your attention.